Welcome into the garage area. We're about to kick off the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season starting at Daytona. We're going to have the qualifying event on Wednesday night, the duels Thursday, and then obviously the race on Sunday afternoon. And we figured before we got that far, we wanted to look at some different things coming into the year, what each team's going to look like, who their drivers are going to be, where we think that those drivers will rank amongst each other inside that team and possibly who we think might have some opportunities to have really good seasons. And we're going to look at some other different rule changes as well and what the open cars look like. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that, starting with the teams. There's some new faces and new places, and one of those teams that is staying the same is Legacy Motor Club with John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones. My personal expectations not real high. I don't necessarily see them taking much of a jump from last year, and they were not good last year. I have no idea where they finished in the points, but it wasn't good. But the ultimate question being, who do you think will outperform the other at Legacy?
Well, I think Eric Jones is the better driver. I mean, he's been in that car longer. I see him up ahead of the John Hunter more often. I don't know if that's how it played out in the points or not, but I see John Hunter was spun out a lot. Of course, he was, I guess, I don't know, he wasn't considered a rookie, but it was like his first year in these cars last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're a Toyota team, but they don't have the same alliance with Joe Gibbs that other Toyota teams have, and I think that's just going to keep them held back until they probably form that alliance. I mean, it just to me, unless they do anything different than that than what they're doing now, I don't see any improvement in their team.
Jimmy Johnson being a big part of the ownership group of that team and him driving for Chevrolet for his entire career and then ending up here at Legacy and they switched to Toyota as a manufacturer. With all the talk of new manufacturers coming into the sport, do you think that Legacy is one that could join one of the new manufacturers when they eventually show up?
Um, they'd probably get better support straight from the manufacturer that way. I could see that. Um,
Yeah.
I never really
I
thought to
just
think
I
about
just
it
was
before.
I was just thinking today about with the talk of new manufacturers coming in, who would be candidates for that. And Legacy was one of the first ones that came to my mind. I don't see some of these bigger teams like Penske or obviously not Hendrick or RFK even, switching manufacturers, obviously not Gibbs. But I don't know. I could see a team like Legacy or even a front row being a team that switches manufacturers to get involved in whoever comes in next,
Yeah,
if that's Honda or Dodge or who I don't know who else they're talking to,
yeah,
but
I have no idea.
um okay, so that and is there anything else we wanted to touch on Legacy? It seems like basically a dumpster fire there. I don't really plan on seeing
Yeah,
them compete for many wins.
yeah,
Um Colleague Racing. Speaking of dumpster fires, they have AJ Allmendinger and Ty Dillon. AJ Allmendinger back running Cup Series schedule full time, and Ty Dillon probably back in the pack every week. That'd
yeah,
be my guess. I automatically think that AJ is going to outrun him, and I don't even know if I bet you Ty has more DNFs than he does top 15s.
yeah. Yeah. AJ is definitely on the road courses. He got a shot to win a race or two. And Ty Dillon, he's just I think his daddy's giving him a ride. So that's about where I see where he's at. But
Um, AJ, do you think that he's going to be a legitimate contender at road course races?
I believe so, but not maybe as big of one as he may have been in the past with especially like the first year of this car. Now that everyone's caught up with it, and maybe some prior car or prior vehicles, but um, that's going to be his best chance to run up front. Though he'll be a top 10 car there, and uh, I think he'll probably be 15th to 25th on any other track throughout the year.
Yeah,
That's my prediction.
I think that that's largely a colleague issue, not an AJ Allmendinger issue. I just
Yeah,
don't think they're bringing fast enough cars to compete every week. Um, Spire Motorsports. They have not a totally new lineup, but a lot of things have shaken up over there. You got Justin Haley, Michael McDowell, and Carson Hocevar. And obviously, with McDowell, you have the legendary crew chief Rodney Childers. Um, what do you make of Spire? Who do you think's going to rank where there?
I'm still not completely sold on Justin Haley. I mean, when he was running good last year in the 51 car, um, he ran good before they got caught with and penalized or whatever they had with their cars or something that time. They never really ran good since. So I don't know what they had in them cars that made them fast at that point, but after they got penalized, and I don't remember what it was for, they never ran good. And even in his stint back with Spire at the end of the year, there was like one flash I did see where he looked like he was pretty good, but um, you know, to me, I think I still consider him number three on that team right now as it is. I think Hocevar is still going to be my number one for that team, like I said last year, and McDowell. I th I think he's going to be so same as he has been in the past. Probably a good restrictor plate driver and road course driver. I mean, he'll hold his own in some other tracks, but that's kind of what I have for him.
I would largely agree with you. I'm really kind of on the fence if I'd put McDowell or Hocevar at the top of the list as far as guys that I think are going to be the fastest out of that Spire camp. Yes, I agree with you. I think Haley's the number three driver. Hocevar outran his equipment, it seemed, last year. And I think that that was a positive thing for that Spire group. The only the only thing with McDowell is he's good and he's got Rodney Childers, and that's just such an unknown marriage that I don't know what that's going to look like by the summertime. It might not start off real fast, but are they going to be able to develop something throughout the year? And what's that going to look like then? But I think ultimately I'm going to put Carson number one just because I've seen McDowell last year qualify on the pole. I've seen him run up front, but he doesn't finish races. And that's largely been the issue even when he had fast cars at front row. And so I think that I'm still going to go with Carson Hocevar being the one, McDowell the two, and Haley the three there. Um, this Hayek Motorsports that was formerly JTG Doherty has Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and they did they I don't even know who their sponsor is right now because didn't they lose the Kroger sponsorship to RFK?
They did. And I feel like I remember hearing about it and seeing it, but it's not coming to me right now. So
I don't know if Sunny D's still over there or not, or if they're with RFK also, or
I couldn't tell you to
I
tell you the
think
truth.
Sunny D went with them too. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That's not even what we're talking about. Obviously, Stenhouse is going to be the only guy in that camp, so he's going to be the number one guy there. What's your expectations for this team?
Um, Same. I mean, you can pop off at a restrictor plate, and that's about his only chances of anything that I can see.
Do you think that they perform better, worse, or the same as last year as a whole?
I'm gonna say the same. I mean, with the name, I don't know if it's just a name change or what different ownerships are have changed, but I just with this car and stuff, and they're not being in a top tier team, I just don't see them performing any better.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with you there. I agree that he's going to be an effective driver at the restrictor plate racetracks. What do you think about for the Daytona 500? Do you think that he's somebody that's going to compete for the win there? I mean, he is a
Oh
past winner.
yeah, I mean he always finds his way up front somehow, some way.
I agree. Um, the new face in the oldest place being Josh Berry at the Wood Brothers. What I don't know what your expectations are there. It seems like the 21 car's performance had kind of fallen off quite a bit in the last few years. They obviously won at Daytona last year, and Harrison Burton just was not performing well in his time there. The Benedetto was really the last guy that was fast there, and before him, when Paul Menard was in it, it really wasn't that fast
No, Ryan
either.
Blaney had a good couple years in it.
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. That's the thing. It's kind of always done the up and down thing with a 21 car. And Blaney was fast, and then Menard wasn't, but then Benedetto was, and um, and then with Harrison Burton getting on the thing, it was basically a non-factor again. What do you think Josh Berry does in this car? Do you think it goes back on the upswing? Do you think that it stays the same? I mean, they are associated with Penske.
I believe it'll perform better than it did with Burton. It'll obviously be a threat at the restrictor plates with, I think Ford is one of the better teams at working together. So the Fords, to me, usually are out front more often. Um, it just, I think it was on Denny's podcast. I heard him talking about it that they're pretty much a developmental team. Developmental pit crews and crew chiefs, and I can't say crew chief for sure, um, but it just that's the team that Penske tries their stuff with. They're not like they don't get the top tier stuff right away and things like that. So, I think it'll be better with than Burton, but I still don't see where he'll be winning races in and out.
I think that you're going to see him um, run competitively at the super speedways, like we said. And I think that there's going to be certain tracks along the way, probably short tracks, where I don't know that he's going to compete to run up front, but I think that he'll pop off running better running positions than they do on a weekly basis, such as say Bristol or Richmond or, some oddball short tracks along the way. RCR, they are in a valley. If there is any teams that are in valleys, they just they 2 years ago with Kyle Busch, they won 3 races right off the bat and they slowly tapered off. And last year, yeah, they won a race with Austin Dillon, but it was an encumbered win. And I don't know, they had to have done something at that racetrack because Austin was fast all night and he's been garbage all of last year. So for him to run like he did, have a shot at the win, and ultimately do whatever it took to win that race, uh, it just it was such a oddball thing to have happen that it just really speaks to how bad a position that RCR is in right now. Kyle will goes through his first winless season last year. Um, do you think that they have any hope of improving this year at all?
Um, so interesting enough, if I remember right, after Austin Dillon won that race, I think that was coming off the Olympic break or within a week or two after it. Um, I feel like there was a stretch there where RCR as a whole performed better. Kyle Busch was a little bit more competitive. Um, what I don't remember what mile and a half it was where Kyle had the race in command. He got that arrow loose or tight coming off of turn two or something and wrecked down the back straightaway. Um, I think that kind of put a damper on the rest of the year after that point. And I, I think I think they'll be a little bit better because I think they did find something last year. Of course, every team finds new things every year, but I think at least Kyle Busch will be quicker. I still don't. Austin Dillon, he's Austin Dillon, so um, he's another one with he's the brother of the other one that's got a ride because of his granddaddy. So, um, but I think Kyle Busch will at least get a win or two this year. That's
Really?
yeah,
Wow. I don't know that I'm ready to go that far. I think that he'll run better, like you said, and probably be in position to win some races, but I don't know if he'll get them all the way done due to pit road issues or equipment failure or whatever. Like I can just see something going wrong for him. But I don't necessarily disagree with you that they have shown a little improvement at the end of last year and might be in a position where they are more competitive to start the season at least.
yeah,
So obviously, I'm assuming you're going with Kyle Busch being the one, Austin Dillon being the two.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Uh, the Haas factory team, Cole Custer, sticking with the Ford manufacturer. Um, I don't have a lot to say. I don't think that it's going to be any different from Stuart Haas was last year. I
No,
think that they're going to be struggling to finish 25th.
that's yeah. I mean, they're obviously completely gutted out. I don't know what remaining. people were pieced together and this and that, and that's I mean, I don't know. It's just yeah, I don't see them improving. It'd probably get worse if anything.
Yeah, that's possible too. Um, Cole Custer as a driver, do you think that that helps them, hurts them, or doesn't do anything for them?
Um, Obviously, he's a great driver in Xfinity Series. I mean, it's a lot to translate to these cars, but I consider him a good driver. I think a lot of it's going to be the equipment he's in that determines his fate. So I don't
Yeah.
think that his experience is hurting anything.
Now we kind of get into some of the more meat and potatoes teams here. Um, RFK Racing. We've got Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and they've added a third car this year with Ryan Preece. My take is consistently you've seen Chris Buescher be the best driver there, and Brad has sometimes followed closely behind, sometimes he's followed a ways behind, but has been good. I mean, they've been close together, but it does seem like the 17 car had the edge. Um, I think that I would stay with that same sentiment. I think that Chris Buescher is going to be the best car in that stable, followed by Brad. And Priest is a pretty big unknown, but being a brand new team and all, I don't really see him outrunning his teammates. I don't even know if I see him running with his teammates. I think that if the 17 and 6 are having a top five day, you might see him running 15th.
Yeah, I could largely agree with that. I mean, I'm looking at Ryan Priest coming up, you know, through the ranks. I mean, he hasn't really done much at the lower ranks. I mean, I feel like he's gotten rides because of sponsorships and stuff like that. Um, and I don't want to say he's a bad driver because I think there's chances he could win and stuff. But I mean, I don't want to put him on the Corey LaJoy level. But I think if I remember correctly, I don't remember him having one truck win.
That's better memory than I've got because I don't remember him winning a truck race at all.
Yeah, but yeah, to me, he's the number three. Chris Buescher has been the number one, even though, yeah, it wasn't until late till Buescher got a win last year. But of course, arguably, if he wouldn't have got taken out at Darlington by Reddick, he probably could have had that one too.
Yeah.
Or but yeah, Brad Keselowski not too far behind Chris, but I largely agree with you.
Um, Trackhouse Racing, Ross Chastain, Shane Van Gisbergen, Daniel Suarez. Suarez was some guy that we talked about possibly being on the hot seat last year, and he got a narrow victory at Atlanta over Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney. I the thing is, I just don't know what SVG is going to do on the ovals. If it was for sure, if I felt like there was some comparison there and that like SVG definitely could hold his own on the ovals, then I would say for sure he's going to outrun Suarez. But I even still, I think I'm going to give the edge to SVG. I'm going to put Suarez at the three, and then Shane at the two. I think that Shane will compete for more wins than Ross will this year, but I think they're all going to be at road courses.
Yeah.
And I think that you're going to see a significant fall off when you come to the ovals, where Ross might be having a top 10, top five car. You're going to see Shane run 20th. And Suarez has done that pretty consistently already. And well, I think that there's going to be road course races that you're just going to see SVG in the top five, top three, probably every time we go to one.
About the only oval I see um, Shane doing good at is Martinsville. Of course, he made it into the clash at the Bowman too and stuff. I believe he finished 12th last fall at Martinsville in the Cup car. I heard people talking about that. So um, he could maybe like cookie cutter track or something like that. One thing I'd watched him in the Xfinity series is he'd run it to back all day, and then by the end of the race, he'd start inching himself forward. Now, competing at the cup level, you got to be up front all day, getting stage points, this and that, to um, compete, point standings if you don't get that win or anything like that. I can't see SVG not winning at a road course. I think, every time they go to one, their strategy is going to be to win the race, not get stage points or however that works out. If they got a pit before a stage or something like that for the best strategy, that's what they're going to do with him. But yeah, man, I just Suarez, other than the two Atlantas, I think the second Atlanta is what pretty much got him through the first round of the playoffs last year. So um, that's about the only thing I really seen with Suarez that did any good. I had a strategy at, I want to say it was Richmond when they had, did they have the option tires at Phoenix last year too? Um, I don't know, one of those two races they had the option tire, and he put on the option tire when no one else did, and he worked strategy up and got like a top five or something that way. But that was the
I
only
think that was
way.
Richmond, but yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like there's more potential to SVG than there is Suarez. And Suarez is only on a 1 year contract, so he's to me he's back right on the hot seat. So
Yeah. Um, so you agree Ross is still the one there?
yeah, because I
Yeah.
he went on ovals and road courses because I mean I remember Watkins Glen, him and SVG were pretty much dominating that race until cautions fell the wrong way for him. But that was so. I mean, I think that's or yeah, Chastain's the best all around driver there. So,
2311 Racing, you have Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Riley Herbst is the new addition this year. This is going to be real quick for me. Tyler Reddick 1, Bubba Wallace 2, Riley Herbst 3. And only because Riley Herbst is an unknown, he could even be better than Bubba Wallace. But I think that it's clearly Tyler Reddick by a mile.
yeah, yeah, Reddick. I still keep Bubba at number two. Riley Herbst. I I think he's. I don't know if he's got any starts in the next gen car that's not a super speedway because I feel
I
like
don't
he
know.
did some part-time races in the super speedways for Ford last year. So or the year prior or this and that. But um, I think he's got a real steep learning curve with this car and stuff that um, I don't expect him to compete too much. So um, Bubba's got a new crew chief this year. I don't know how long he's worked with Booty Barker, but I don't remember the new crew chief now. But um, we'll see how that pans out for him going forward.
Yeah. Front Row Motorsports, it's a really different lineup there as well. Noah Gregson, Todd Gill, and Zane Smith. It's the team of youth. Seems like all the young guys have found their way there. Noah kind of has had a rough start to his cup career, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
Not even performance wise, just gets bounced around a lot. To me, you kind of would equate it to like a quarterback that loses an offensive coordinator every year.
yeah,
And it seems like he has a relatively decent amount of talent, but he just can't get his footing under him with whatever team he's at. And just an unfortunate situation for him. I do think he's landing on his feet here at front row. I think their cars were fast last year. I think they're on the upswing as a whole. Um, Todd Gilliland is, I think he's a good race car driver. And then Zane Smith, I think, is very talented. And I think it's interesting that he got the opportunity to run up through front rows truck series, goes to Cup, goes to race for Trackhouse, and then just gets dumped by them pretty much and ends up right back with front row motorsports in the Cup series. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if that's any advantage to him being that he's been on the truck team, but I think it's going to be an interesting interesting setup there. I expect these guys to run very well at the plate tracks. And again, kind of like Josh Berry, I think that you could see those guys show up at some oddball racetracks you don't expect them to.
Yeah, I don't to rank them though. I'm not really sure to kind of look at them because to me, I can kind of see them all being equals. Um, Zane Smith struggled last year at Spire throughout most of the year. Then he started getting hot there at the end, or he was started running up with Hocevar and stuff there at the end. So it'll be interesting to see how they all play out. But to me, I'd have a hard time ranking them.
I'm going to have a hard time ranking them, but I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to say Todd, Noah, and Zane.
Mm,
I think they're close.
yeah, yeah, I could see that. Todd's already got his footing there, and Gregson to me has got more experience and in a better car than he has been, I think, in quite a few years. 'Cause I know when he
Yeah.
was with Legacy, they were in the junk of the Chevys, and then got bounced to the junk of the Stuart Haas, and now he's with the better Fords, I guess, than
Yeah.
what he has been. So, uh,
Um, Rick Ware Racing, Cody Ware's the driver. Just pencil them down for a wreck every week. Um, and to finish 30th. This is I don't think that there's any hope whatsoever. Signed, sealed, delivered. The whole like it. Rick Ware Racing seemed like they were improving last year, but Cody Ware being the driver, no confidence in that team whatsoever.
yeah. Um, they did say in his 9 races last year, he had an average finish of 21st, which was a career best. But
I'm sure there's some attrition that he probably was too slow to even catch the wrecks,
yeah,
and then just drove by all the crashed cars at the end.
yeah. One of those was a fourth place at Daytona. I think it was the one where
Harrison
Harrison
Burton
Burton
race.
won,
Yeah.
so um, yeah, yeah. I don't see them competing very well. So that's just kind of short and sweet to theirs.
Joe Gibbs Racing, with Truex retiring, Chase Briscoe coming in. We have Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe. Um, Bell was really strong last year. Denny started strong last year. Um, Ty Gibbs did okay, and Briscoe won a race last year in some junk equipment. So they seem to have a pretty stacked lineup. What are your thoughts on JGR this year?
um, yeah, I mean, I just to me, it's their same old powerhouse team. You know, interesting that this year they allowed um, Ty Gibbs and C Bell to go back to dirt racing. I think Chase Briscoe coming over is part of that too because he's a big dirt racer. So
Mhm.
to me, I'm really looking to see how C Bell does. He's won some dirt racing events already this year, and then I kind of put him in the same category as Kyle Larson. He, uh, racing anything, any chance he gets, and I think that's going to improve his racing throughout the Cup Series also. So I'm really interested in Christopher Bell. I think he's going to perform even better this year. Um, I feel like he seems more relaxed and stuff, and anything I've seen him in. Denny, I still see him getting a few race wins. Um, and Ty Gibbs, he's still looking for that first one. Chase Briscoe is to me is an unknown in the new equipment, and so to me it's best. I think is going to be C Bell, Denny. I'll put Gibbs, Briscoe, kind of like neck and neck with each other for the third spot or on the team. But that's kind of my prediction for that team.
I think it's going to be Christopher Bell, but you're not going to see that performance show up till late in the year or later in the year.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's going to be Chase Briscoe
Uh,
next, and followed by Denny and Ty Gibbs. That's I think that I think they're all going to run well. I think they could all be in position to finish top five every week. Um, I feel like we saw a tiny step back with Ty Gibbs last year. Not bad. Not that he wasn't fast, And just from where he was his rookie year, I feel like he took just a slight step back. And until I see some performance increase there, I'm not going to believe it yet. And I don't like Ty Gibbs, but I'm not going to ignore his talent either. I don't think that he's a bad race car driver. And Denny's just getting older, and it doesn't mean that he can't win races. But I think as far as week in, week out being fast, I think that I think that Chase Briscoe has just had the world open to him in being in a really fast race car and being in a really good race team. And he's got a lot of talent, always has. And just to be right there, I think you're gonna see him start hot. And I think that he might not necessarily finish as hot as Christopher Bell does, but I think that those two are going to be really good this year. Our next team to talk about is Hendrick Motorsports, another one of the powerhouse teams. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Alex Bowman. Nothing changed there. Um, a lot of talk last year about Bowman being on the hot seat. Do you think that that's the case again this year?
Um, hmm, you know, I would have said no, but supposedly there's some relationship with Justin Haley, and that somehow he's signed through Hendrick Motorsports Racing with Spire. And whether maybe HMS sees something that, I've said repeatedly that Justin Haley hasn't impressed me enough yet. Um, you know, Bowman, he shows flashes of having great years. I mean, he was leading the points until he got hurt that year. So,
Yeah.
but he just, I know last year he was probably the bottom of the four. Um, Although he got hot there in the playoffs until he lost 17 pounds going over the turtles at Roval. But uh, man, I gonna have to say yes because if it wasn't for that Haley signing with Hendrick Motorsports, then I probably would say no. Because other than Haley, I don't know who else was in line for that ride. Um, I don't really see anything in the Xfinity Series with JRM or anybody anywhere that's kind of would be up for that ride or that would be signing for. I know there's Corey Day is signed with Hendrick Motorsports, but he's still truck racing. Roger Cruth, who has Hendrick sponsorship, I think he's still got a ways to go. So I think it all kind of depends on how Haley drives and how that goes.
Yeah, that's probably true. Um, Chase Elliott won the Clash. Last year, I would have said Larson Byron, but I think that it's going to be Larson Chase and could even be Chase and Larson as far as if you're going to rank them. I think that Chase Elliott's going to have a really good year. I think Kyle Larson, as usual, is going to have a really good year. And so I'm going to say Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Alex Bowman a distant fourth.
Yeah, I think Larson's still the number one. He just I have no reason to. Ever since Larson came to Hager Motorsports, I mean, he won a championship right away. What I don't know, did he win 10 races that year?
Yeah.
And then they went to the next gen car, which kind of even things out. And I think
It
Chase
equaled
had
them
the
out.
most wins that year, but five. But now that Larson has figured out this car and winning races, and I still have Larson one. I saw Chase Elliott get hot last year. At the end of the year, he started picking up his performance. So he's definitely number two, and Byron just kind of slipped. But I don't. I can still see Byron picking back up and performing. I think he's a great driver, and Bowman is still the distant fourth for me. But like you said, but that's kind of where I stand.
Team Penske, you have Logano, Blaney, and Cindric. Joey Logano being last year's champion, three-time champion now. Ryan Blaney being right back in the Final Four after winning the championship the year before, and Austin Cindric, found victory lane last year as well. Seems like Penske. I don't feel like they performed last year as well as Hendrick and Gibbs, but yet every driver under their banner won, and they won the championship and had two cars in the Final Four. So they're obviously doing something right at the right time of year. Um, I still think that as far as a weekly performance goes, it's going to be Ryan Blaney and then Joey Logano, and then Austin Cindric is going to be a distant third.
Yeah. The only reason Cindric has a win is because Ryan Blaney ran out of fuel on the white flag. So
But like Cindric was running well
he was
too.
running well, yeah. But that was like the only place I really seen him run well.
True.
That was Gateway, all right. That was
Yeah.
um. But yeah, I agree. Blaney, I think, is got a little bit of a, you know, outperforms Logano quite a bit. Um, I mean by quite a lot. I feel like Logano, he either wins or runs 20th. That's what it seems like. So,
Yeah.
of course, the reason he won the championship is because Alex Bowman lost 17 pounds at the Roval.
Right.
um, but yeah, I think Blaney's going to be a championship four contender, and Logano will probably get a win, make the playoffs one way or another. And Cindric, to me, is on the hot seat. The what was interesting is his dad was on works for Penske.
Yeah.
I don't remember his position,
President.
but oh yeah, but supposedly he no longer is working on the NASCAR side. He is now a full IndyCar side. I just wonder if that like kind of puts him out of the way of the making decision on Austin. So I say he's on the hot seat for sure now.
Yeah. Yeah, that could possibly be. The thing is, just like Bowman, I don't know of anybody that's lined up to replace him though.
Well, yeah.
And
Other
I
than
think
that
that,
Josh Berry'd move up and he moved down or something like that, or
but yeah, that seems odd that you would make that switch. Like, why wouldn't you just leave them where they're at and adjust at what equipment each person's getting?
yeah,
Like, essentially, Barry would be running the two car, but under the 21 banner.
yeah. What did they? I mean, they brought Ryan Blaney up too, so in that
It's
similar
true.
way. So
But they added that car for Blaney.
yeah, um, but
So,
that's what I got for
but yeah, I expect
Penske.
them to be fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we leave this topic, I want to know not necessarily who you think the champion will be, just because I think that it's such a wild way that we do that in this sport. But who do you think is going to be the high performer this season? Fast every week, wins a bunch of races, and makes a deep playoff run.
Um, Christopher Bell for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I'm looking at. I mean, it's going to be him versus Kyle Larson from what I'm predicting. Just that's about
That's
what I have.
that's how I feel too. I feel I was going to say Kyle Larson. So you
Yeah,
taking Bell actually gave me that opportunity because I do think that it's Kyle Larson is going to be the guy to beat this year.
yeah.
Um,
I just didn't want to pick the easy guy. Easy guy.
thanks for saving it for me. Um, and then Daytona 500 winner. We won't necessarily make this count for our official pick, but one thing that I want to do this year, like last year we did, you could pick whoever you thought would win each race. Uh, this year I want to do the same thing, but I only want us to pick. You can only pick one guy three times throughout the year,
Okay.
and I think that because we would just pick Larson or Hamlin every week,
Yeah.
and one of them would finish really well every week, and uh, I think that kind of putting a three race cap on them, at least in the regular season, is going to be beneficial. So my pick may not necessarily be the guy that I think is going to win the Daytona 500, but I think we'll have a shot. Who do you got?
So, mm, man, it's really hard to predict a Daytona 500 winner, but um, to me, it's probably going to be. I always go Joey Logano, and I don't want to keep doing that. So, um, I'm going to say Kyle Busch gets it.
Kyle Busch.
Yeah,
There's a pick.
I don't.
Um, I was thinking about it today, and I think it could be Todd Gilliland.
Yeah,
I just think that it's an obscure driver to a degree, and he's in a Ford, which are going to be fast. And as long as they can keep working together and they don't get wrecked, I could see him winning the thing.
yeah.
So it's kind of an off the wall prediction, but I think it definitely could be something we see happen.
I feel like you could say that with any driver at these tracks, but
True. It's
yeah,
very true.
yeah.
Before we touch on some of the new rules, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them either, let's talk about the open cars. We got Corey LaJoy in the 01, Justin Allgaier running the 40 for Dale Jr., JJ Yeley in the 44, Truex going to be in the 56, uh, Alfredo in the 62, Chandler Smith in the, what is that, the 66,
Yeah.
BJ McLeod in the 78, Jimmy Johnson in the 84, and Elio Castroneves, who is locked into the race in the 91. How many cars are going to advance in that? Is it four?
Um, yeah, four, not including the provisional.
Right,
So it could be five.
right.
Yeah.
So four if Elio times in, basically.
Yeah.
Who do you got in and who do you got out?
Well, Justin Allgaier is running a Hendrick car who always qualifies on the pole. I think he qualifies in on time.
Yep.
Um, uh, let's see, Martin Truex Jr. Even if he doesn't qualify on time, I think he's got Toyota help with JGR in 2311. I think he can race his way in. Um, let's see. Hmm. I'm just gonna keep Elio out and just say he's gonna be the 41st driver. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna say Jimmy Johnson. Even though they're not like in with Gibbs, they're still Toyotas and they run in that Toyota line. Um, and then I don't know what the 66 is with Chandler Smith. I don't know if I've ever seen that team or know what that team was a part of. Um, and I think the 62 with Anthony Alfredo. I feel like that car and stuff always runs well at the restrictor plate. So that's gonna probably be my four that are in if Elio doesn't make it in or whatever. So,
Okay. I'm really close with you too. I think that Allgaier makes it. I think that Truex makes it, and I think Jimmy Johnson makes it. And I think that it's going to be BJ McLeod instead of Anthony Alfredo.
that was I was on the edge with him too. I feel like I don't know. I see him run up front, but he usually when he runs up front at some of these tracks, he's the one not saving gas and going full throttle. So um, now obviously it's a little bit different in the duel. I don't know if they have to pit or I don't. I think they got to pit at least once, but um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think that Elio times in on his own. I think he's got a fast car. I think there's just inexperience there isn't going to get him what he needs.
Yeah,
But locked in either way, especially having that in your back pocket makes a difference.
yeah.
Um, all right, well, we'll see if that prediction comes true or not. Um, Go ahead, and I think you're a little more familiar with these than I am as far as the deep understanding of them. Let's hit some of these new rules. The open exemption provisional, we kind of already got into that a little bit, but kind of hit me with the details of that.
Yeah, it's pretty much a seasoned driver from like any series or something, or um, I guess anybody that has any type of racing pedigree. If the team wants to guarantee him a spot, you got to get a 90-day approval. Um, then NASCAR. I mean, it only comes into effect if there's more than 40 cars qualifying for a race. So about the only time I really see it being used is for the Daytona 500. That's the only time I feel like I really remember there being more than 40 cars. So that's pretty much basically what it is. It's definitely a lot of controversy. Denny Hamlin's made some comments about that. It's kind of a, if you want to be one of the best, you got to qualify with the best. So, uh,
Right.
but I don't know if you have any particular thoughts on that or not.
Um, I don't I don't really have an opinion on it. And it's one of the few things in the sport that I don't. I just feel like the argument being made was, well, they could cause a big wreck and they don't have any experience here. It's like, well, so what? Like anybody could cause a big wreck.
Yeah,
And it, that is one of those things that's like, why is that a factor in this? Um, but also, I don't like them necessarily being locked in, but I do like the fact that if you're going to lock them in, they don't get points or money. So I think that NASCAR's hedged their bet the best that they possibly can in that situation, to try to draw some attention. I don't agree with how they're going about the process of drawing attention to their sport. If if you think about, when we were kids, and I talk about this all the time, and what made NASCAR great was guys driving really powerful race cars on the razor's edge every week,
yeah,
and who was going to be best at it. Worn out racetracks, tires that lay rubber down, high horsepower, all that kind of stuff. Less drag. Uh, I think that that's the way that you draw the attention to your sport, not getting Elio Castroneves to compete in a car that you basically give him a starting spot in. And that's nothing against Elio, but I
yeah,
just don't have deep-seated feelings. One.
yeah. I
Um,
didn't really have much of a thought on it. The only thing that really got to me is a seven-time champion of the sport could not qualify, and you're giving someone from the outside a spot. They used to have the champions provisional. Of course, they didn't really need it when there's not enough cars to qualify. But to me, just kind of keeping Jimmy out and allowing someone from IndyCar a spot, just that kind of doesn't quite sit fully right with me. But that's my only degree against it, I guess. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but next rule was an update to the damaged vehicle policy, which is probably the best rule change that I've seen them do in the off season. Whereas you only have 7 minutes to work on the car on pit road, then you got to take it back to the garage. It's kind of like the old days now. You can go back to the garage and bring your car back out. Every vehicle that is towed gets towed automatically to the garage. So, and you can fix your car and come out. So, like Ryan Blaney could have, I don't know how long it would have took him, but fixed. He had a steering shaft break or something. Probably could have probably replaced that in a few laps if they had a spare one. Probably had a spare car or whatever, popped one off and put another one in. Um, so I think that's probably the best change I've seen him do this off season. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. No, not really.
Yeah,
I do think it's a positive thing. Can't say that I fully understood the old one, so I don't know all the details of the new one as far as, start to finish, but it does sound like from everything that I've heard, like it's an improvement.
yeah. New waiver for playoff eligibility. Um, so essentially, if you're like Kyle Larson and skip a race to run IndyCar, and you come back, you lose all your playoff points, past and
Now,
future.
you said past and future.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's where the only thing that I was confused on is if you lost all the points you'd earned to that point, or if you don't get any of them until the playoffs start.
yeah. You don't get any until the playoffs start.
Okay.
So
Um, I think that Kyle Larson got the short end of the stick in that deal, but at the same point, I like the rule. I think it's good.
yeah. Um, Same goes to, I mean, also for like a suspension or something like that too. So
Mhm.
the only like waivers that you keep your points is for a health or family matter or something like that, where it's a plausible excuse. So um, they also clarified some rules and stuff by with the OEMs for manipulating finishes, like we saw in Martinsville, with Chevy's blocking for Byron, and Toyota's trying to fall back and allow points to be gained by Bell and stuff. So I really don't know too much about that. There's a lot of uh, reading that is probably still in the air of how you understand what it says. But I imagine teams are still going to do this to some degree. I don't. I just feel like there's too much on the line to, I don't know. But about the latest change though, the new bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. You used to always get bonus points for leading a lap and leading the most laps. This is essentially what it is, but it's for the fastest lap. Which
Yeah.
I mean is cool. I kind of like to see the lead lap leading earn points too and stuff, but I thought it was a neat little upgrade to the format.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier when this thing came up. Is Denny Hamlin mentioned this too, that you could be running up front all day long and get wrecked on a green white checkered, finish 26th, and it's like you were never there. And I think that there should be, in the same way that they kind of go about the way you qualify for races, how there's a formula to it. I think that the points awarded for the race should take into consideration your average running position in some way. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how you would detail that all out, but I think that if you led, or let's say you ran third all race and got wiped out on a green white checkered, I think that you should get some sort of more significant points for running third all day. Just
Yeah,
my
you have to
opinion.
come up with some metric like they do for the qualifying order or something like that. That would be hard for like come to playoff time when they have like the live point standings of who's in and who's out and stuff like that. I feel like that makes it too complex of a system for probably for fans to understand on the fly, like throughout a race, and teams wanting to know we need so many positions for these many points and stuff. I uh, I feel like you lose some of that with what you're saying, some type of metric system. That'd be my only argument against it. Um,
But
but
in that same argument, though, I think you argue for it with the race manipulation thing instead of the, hey, you need one more spot here, go ahead and block this guy. It's you don't know what you need. You just need all you can get.
yeah, I get what you're saying, and that would be neat to see at the end. But I just don't see NASCAR going that way, I guess.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah.
I just think it's an incredible idea, and NASCAR should listen to me.
Um, so I guess next is the in-season tournament they have this year. Um, you know, I think it's cool. They're I probably have it so you can fill out a bracket, like kind of similar, to probably what the Denny Hamlin bracket challenge was when he did his thing. Um, I think NASCAR actually came to Denny and talked about it, which is surprising. um, but the only difference is Denny used the point standings as they were at the time, whereas the ranking of the drivers for their playoff bracket will be based on their prior three races.
Okay.
So what it says: Michigan, Mexico City, and Pocono. Um, it's it kind of to me would just kind of make things more even. It'll be odd if let's say Elliott and Larson are considered like two top teams or whatever. One of them has a bad week, and then first week they get matched up against each other. That'd be like
Right.
the seeding. I guess is not going to be as strict, I guess, as it would be like a point system.
Yeah.
Um, it's five races, or say starting at Atlanta, which of course Atlanta's whoever finished in front of whoever. So it's I don't think anybody's going to have any perfect brackets.
Oh, probably not.
So um, but goes from Atlanta to Chicago to Sonoma, Dover, and ends at Indianapolis. So you got a couple road courses, super speedway style race at Atlanta, and then uh, a mile at Dover and the Brickyard, of course. And the driver that comes out on top wins $1 million. But,
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm glad to see that, you know, somebody had a good idea, somebody inside the sport had a good idea, and NASCAR decided to run with that. They probably saw the attention that Dirty Mo Media and Denny Hamlin were getting with this idea and decided, why don't we make money off of it? And I think that's cool.
yeah, that's all I got wrote down
Um,
for changes.
is
But
there anything else that you wanted to hit on?
um, I feel like I had something for a second and I don't remember. um, the only other changes I can really think of is the TV deal and stuff that may have talked a little bit about it last year, but the races are on a bunch of different channels, and like Amazon Prime's got all the qualifying practices, and HBO has in-car cameras, and of course Amazon's going to get 5 races, I think, and then TNT back to NBC. Have to keep an eye out where your races are going to be this year if you're going to watch them all.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that goes and what ratings look like and all that, and just the way that races are consumed is primarily through television, which you could say that with about any sport, but it it's going to be interesting to see what the availability is like there for sure.
That's all I got.
That's all I have too. I think that we pretty much covered everything, at least to a degree, that I was aware of coming into the season, things that were going to be different. And I think that's awesome that we had all that wrapped into one podcast here to kind of get things kicked off for the year. I'm looking forward to qualifying. I'm really looking forward to the duels. Um, and I know that the 500 itself is going to be a lot of fuel mileage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's not going to live up to the hype, but every year I build it up in my head of like, it's the Great American Race, it's the Daytona 500. I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. And I'm already getting the old clips fed through my social media accounts of past Daytona 500s and how great those were, and it just makes you hope that maybe this one's going to be just as good, and it never is, but that's always the hope, and I'm looking forward to it and hope to see the 22 car in victory lane.